Welcome to Tales and Travel Adventures. Let's visit London. Hello, my name is Mary Beth Reitner. I am a retired librarian. In 2008, I developed a program called Tales and Travel. This is the sixth in a series of programs adapting Tales and Travel for online use by groups or individuals. There are two ways to use this program. First, you can just listen and follow along as I read the narrative that accompanies each slide. Or you or your partner can turn down the volume and use the controls to pause each screen so that you can read the narrative out loud yourself. You might also want to talk with your partner about what you are seeing or about any memories that come to mind. I'm so glad that we are on a guided trip around London. There are so many palaces, churches, and historical places to visit that I wouldn't know where to start. After a 7-hour overnight flight across the Atlantic Ocean, we arrived at Heathrow Airport at 6:50 a.m. London time. I don't know about you, but I didn't get much sleep on the airplane. The rest of our trip to London and surrounding areas will be on a large bus. We will be sightseeing for 7 days. Our guide for the trip is a very knowledgeable and friendly British gentleman. We are in good hands. Our first stop is Windsor Castle, which is near the airport. Built in the 11th century, it is still used as a royal home. Queen Elizabeth still lives here on the weekends. Windsor is a quaint little town with shops and pubs. We got here just in time for the changing of the guard ceremony. The soldiers in the red uniforms are officially called yeoman warders, but are popularly known as the Beefeaters. Our bus driver next drove us into London proper and to our very nice hotel in Bloomsbury Square. We will be staying here for the rest of the trip. After a good night's sleep and a proper English breakfast, we need to get on the bus to go to the Tower of London on the Thames River. Here is the Tower Bridge in the distance. We are approaching the Tower of London. Built in the 11th century, it is a palace and fortress, but it is most well known as a prison. This is the Traitors' Gate, an entrance to the tower from the river. Some prisoners arrived at the tower through this gate. Famous prisoners of the tower include Sir Thomas More and Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII. At least 6 ravens are kept in an aviary on the tower grounds. According to legend, if the ravens were ever to leave the tower, the monarchy would fall, and all of Britain with it. Our next stop is St. Paul's Cathedral, which sits on the highest point in London. Named after the Apostle Paul, the first church was built on this site in 604. It was rebuilt after the Great Fire of London in 1666. Designed by architect Christopher Wren with a great dome, this was the tallest building in London until 1963. Having survived the Blitz of World War II, this is still a working church. Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer were married here in 1981. The service marking the Queen's Diamond Jubilee was also held here in 2012. As we drive to our next stop, Trafalgar Square, we get to see one of the iconic red double-decker buses. Formerly known as Charing Cross, Trafalgar Square is named after the victory won by the British Navy over Napoleon's forces in 1805. The square is dominated by Nelson's Column, named after Admiral Horatio Nelson, who died during the battle. The column is 169 feet high. On one side of the square is the National Gallery, We can go inside to see over 2,300 paintings from the 13th through the 19th centuries. We can also see a wide variety of street artists, musicians, and performers. On the third day of our trip, those of us who are history buffs will enjoy exploring the Cabinet War Rooms, where Winston Churchill and his team directed the course of World War II. The bunker lies under the Treasury Building. Now a museum, these top-secret corridors were the nerve center for the war effort. We can peer into these rooms where Churchill and his advisors plotted the course for Allied victory over Germany and Japan. They were used from 1939 to 1945. Back up in the fresh air, let's take a walk down the Mall, the street which leads to Buckingham Palace. Here is our first view of the palace. We have arrived just in time to see the dress rehearsal for the Trooping of the Color. This ceremony, on the second Saturday in June, is the official celebration of the birthday of the British monarch, even though it may not be their actual birthday. The Queen will travel down the Mall tomorrow, escorted by her horse guards, to inspect her troops, which will be displaying their regimental colors. This parade has been held every year since 1748. Here we are in front of Buckingham Palace. It's getting crowded, but we won't get lost if we follow our guide with the blue umbrella. I believe this is as close as we will get to the Queen. As our fourth day starts, it's time to visit Westminster Abbey, where British monarchs have been crowned since 1066. Prince William and Kate Middleton were married here in 2011. Our guide pointed out that there is a statue of Martin Luther King over the west entrance. It was unveiled in 1998. As we walk out of Westminster Abbey, we can see the Big Ben clock tower. It dominates the north end of Westminster Palace. Big Ben is actually the nickname for the largest of 5 bells. Big Ben tolls on the hour, and the other 4 bells chime at each quarter hour. This is the iconic view of the Palace of Westminster from across the river. The 2 Houses of Parliament, the House of Lords and the House of Commons, have met here for 900 years. Our 5th day in London is a free day. I am excited to visit a house near our hotel where the famous novelist Charles Dickens lived. It is now a museum. Dickens and his young family lived here for 2.5 years. His 3rd novel, Nicholas Nickleby, was written here and published in 20 monthly parts. There is a lovely garden in the back. Next, let's take a trip on the tube to go shopping at Harrods. This escalator is taking us very deep under the streets. Be sure to mind the gap when you get on the Underground Railway car. I think we're supposed to get off at Knightsbridge Station. Oh, good, we found Harrods. If we buy any of this glassware, how will we ship it home? It's a nice summer's day, so let's take a stroll in nearby Hyde Park. It is the largest royal park in central London and includes the Serpentine Lake. Today is our 6th day in England, and we are going to take a side trip out into the countryside west of London to visit Oxford and Stratford-upon-Avon. Oh, look, they are driving on the left side of the road. That's how it's done in England. The University of Oxford is the oldest university in the English-speaking world. It is made up of 39 colleges and 6 halls. It has about 24,000 students. There is no main campus, but college buildings are scattered across the city center. Its historic buildings draw the attention of filmmakers. You may have seen this dining room in the first Harry Potter movie. Students still wear academic dress to class. The Bodleian Library, pictured here, opened in 1602 and now has over 11 million volumes. Famous people who attended Oxford University include former President Bill Clinton, former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and scientist Stephen Hawking. As we approach Shakespeare's birthplace, let's stop first at Anne Hathaway's cottage. Here, William Shakespeare courted Anne, and she became his wife in 1582. They had 3 children. William Shakespeare was born in this house on Henley Street in Stratford-upon-Avon in 1564. The River Avon flows nearby. He left for London to be an actor and playwright sometime in his early 20s. The Bard of Avon returned to Stratford-upon-Avon 3 years before his death in 1616. On our last day in London, let's spend some time walking among the treetops at the Kew Palace Gardens. It's worth the climb. Our last stop is Hampton Court Palace. How many palaces have we seen? This was a favorite palace of Henry VIII and lies 12 miles southwest from central London. It also has a very pleasant garden. It's time for a farewell dinner at Ye Olde Cheshire Cheese Pub, which used to be a favorite of literary giants, such as Charles Dickens, G.K. Chesterton, and Mark Twain. We have had a great time in London, but it will be good to get home. This ends the slides for our sightseeing trip to London. Thank you for joining me. Before we leave England, let's sing the British national anthem, God Save the Queen. You probably know the melody. It is the same as our patriotic song, My Country 'Tis of Thee. I will play the melody on my flute, and you can sing along, using the lyrics on the following 2 screens. You sounded great. If you want to sing the song again, just rewind the recording back a little way. If you are using this program with someone else, the next screen will make some suggestions for starting a conversation about London. Have you ever visited London? Do you have any family or friends from England? What do you think of when you think of London? Historical places, royalty, music and literature, food, anything else? You are welcome to download and print this word search puzzle to play offline or share with friends. If you are artistically inclined, you might enjoy finding free coloring pages online. Try doing a Google search with terms such as Free Coloring Pages London. Then copy and paste an image into a word processing document and print it. Thank you for visiting London with me. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at my email address. I would appreciate it if you would take a moment to fill out a brief survey about the value of this program. This work can be freely used under this Creative Commons license. Thank you again for coming with me to London, and have a wonderful day.